In this video, we're going to look at what happens when we combine two or more vectors. So to start off with, we're going to have some vectors, and here we have this vector here, and we're going to call that vector A, and then we're going to have a second vector here, and we're going to call that vector B. And what happens when we do A and B is what happens that we do A followed by B. So we run along A and then down B. So what happens is B moves across so that it starts at the end of A. So B starts at the end of A and it goes 3 down and 1 across. So B looks like that, and it's attached there. So we have B now has moved across. Oh, B has moved across there to next to A. And then what we can do is we can create a vector that goes from the very beginning, which is here, to the very end, which is here. And all we do is we join them up with another vector going from there to there. Now we could call that pink vector C, but we don't. That pink vector is called A plus B. And that's what we do when we add vectors. We do one vector followed by the other vector. So A plus B, we go along A first, we go up A, then we go down B. And the shortcut way of doing that is A plus B, which is just going straight from the beginning to the very end. This A plus B is called the resultant vector of A and B. So let's have a look at another example. In this example we're going to start again with a vector, and again we're going to call this vector A, and then we're going to introduce another vector and we're going to call this one B, and once again we want to do A followed by B. So B moves so that it comes after A. Now we join from the very beginning to the very end, which gives us that pink line there, and the pink line is A plus B. The resultant vector is A plus B. So all we do to combine two vectors by adding is draw one vector and then draw the second one that starts from where the first one finishes. The resulting vector is called the resultant vector. So we draw one vector, and then to do the next one we start from where the previous one finished, and then from the very beginning to the very end gives us our resultant. We can also do more than two vectors in a similar way. We could have these two we had before was A and this one was B. We could now add another vector C, and C would just be added on to the end of B. So C might go like this up to here. That might be C. And then the resultant would be from the very beginning to the very end. So the resultant in this case would be that vector there. And that one would be called A plus B plus C. All the way from the beginning of A through B and then through C. We can also use the other notation. We can talk about A to B here. So we might be asked to write as a single vector AB plus BE. And to work that out, we start at A, we go along to B, and then we go from B to E, which is that vector there. And the shortcut way of doing that would be going from A straight down here to E. So the shortcut way, the resultant vector is A to E. Similarly, if we had something like D to C plus C to A plus A to E, we'd go from D to C, which is up there, then we go from C to A across there, and then from A to E, which is down there. So our shorthand vector going from the very beginning to the very end is D to E directly. One final example on this one. We have C to B plus B to D plus D to C. So from C to B we go up there, from B to D we go down there, and then from D we go to C. In this case we end where we started, so the resultant vector is the 0 vector. We end where we started, so the resultant is 0. We can also subtract with vectors as well as adding, and here we have our vectors A and B once again. And to subtract, so this time we're looking at getting the resultant vector A minus B rather than A plus B. And to do this we have to create minus B, and the way we have minus B is we have B the same length but in the opposite direction. So minus B is this one over here, this is minus B over here. Now to do A minus B, we put minus B on the end of A. So we shift minus B over so the start of minus B goes on the end of A, which gives us that up there. So this is now minus B up here. And finally we do the resultant, joining those together from the very beginning to the very end once again, and then we have up there, and that would be A minus B, because we did A first and then we did minus B second. Let's look at our other example. We once again have A here and this one is B. In a similar way we want to find A minus B this time rather than A plus B. So the first thing we have to do is create minus B, the same line segment but in the opposite direction. So this one here is minus B. Then we put the beginning of B, minus B, sorry, on the end of A, and when we do that we get this over here, and then this one here is minus B, and then our resultant is going from the very beginning to the very end, so our resultant goes like that, and that is A minus B. So for subtracting vectors we do a similar thing to adding vectors, but first of all we have to create the negative vector, so in the opposite direction, and then we add it on. So we do A going that way plus minus B. So if B goes like that, then minus B is the same but in the opposite direction. Minus B goes like that, and so the resultant then is A minus B. So that's how we combine vectors, by adding and subtracting to obtain resultant vectors.